what we're going to do is it's sort of like a little bit of resistance training. We're going to start intentionally way too small. We're going to feel that resistance and then gradually open up your mouth until you feel the wind just rush into your body. All right, so I'll show it and then we'll do it together. So you start by exhaling, so you got plenty of room to inhale. We're going to start way too small. And at a certain point, you just feel the air enter your body with no stress at all. So let's do that together. Everyone exhale. Get everything out. Start way too small. And just take a couple breaths on that, right? Easy, no drama, nice, easy breath. Now, if you subscribe to the Pedagogy of Arnold Jacobs, I got one of his books right here, The Song and Wind. He says, breathe with weakness. Strength or tension is your foe and weakness is your friend, right? So tension is the absence of movement. We don't want to be tense in our torsos and our bodies or anything because we want to allow everything to expand as much as it needs to without getting in the way. So just to do a little experiment, I want you to sort of tense up a little bit, like this, and try to take a breath. Now, just release, relax. You can even just do a little sigh. Shake it out. Now take that same breath. And you get a lot more wind. So another pedagogue who talks a lot about breathing and who's active right now is Øystein Bodsvik. And he's actually got an online academy. You can look him up online. He's got a lot of videos. And in his breathing, he talks about a two-part breath, right? So you've got your main air, you've got sort of the balance point, and then your reserve air. So if you sigh, just, you're going to go down to your balance point, and that's about 40% of your capacity. And then in order to expel that rest, that 40% left, you've got to work pretty hard to get that out. And then get the rest out. Now you're always going to have a little bit of air left in your lungs, and that's your body trying to keep you alive, right? You need a little bit of air in there to keep you alive, otherwise you're going to have great difficulty. You don't want your lung to collapse. Right. So at any given point, if you think you're using absolutely 100% of your air capacity, if it feels like that, if you're playing something that, you know, it's like really loud and long whole notes, perhaps you're doing like Great Gate of Kiev in Pictures at an Exhibition or something like that. You're probably using maybe 95% if you're like absolutely going full to absolutely empty. There's so much to talk about here. Okay. Ooh. Posture. In order to get your optimal operation of your lungs, you got to sit with really good posture. In order to find that posture, we can do a little exercise. I'm going to tilt this down so you can sort of see my torso. What I want you to do is sit in your chairs, sit away from the back a little bit, so you got a little room to move. And we're going to try and find this posture right here. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to lean forward a little bit until you feel your back muscles engage, right? That's trying to keep you from falling over. And then come back to neutral until they release. Next, you're going to lean back slightly until you feel your lower abs engage, also to keep you from falling over, and then go back to neutral, just until that releases. So in this position here, right, you're slightly forward. It's not like 90 degrees rigid, like, where you actually have to exert energy to keep yourself up. It's nice and balanced. And nice and relaxed. So if you have your instrument, try that a little bit. So what I want you to first do, when you're sitting with your instrument with a nice posture, of course, bring the instrument to you. You don't want to be reaching for it. You don't want to be scrunching down, especially if you have a euphonium. Right? You've got that nice posture, and you bring the instrument to you. And we're just going to blow air. Now, if you want to make a sound on your instrument, and maybe you've done so accidentally already, all you got to do is blow that air and bring your lips just gradually slightly closer together until the buzz happens. So I'm going to turn down my gain a little bit. Now, whichever note you got depends on what kind of instrument you're playing on. I'm playing on a C tuba, I was getting a G right there. If you're set up kind of big, maybe you got a low note, maybe you got a B flat, maybe you got an F, maybe you're set up a little smaller and you got a B flat above that. Right, so the breathing is directly related to how you're going to exhale, how you're going to blow. Just like that. A nice deep breath helps you calm down too, right? So what we're going to do, let's do a couple of breathing exercises here. And this is going to help us get the most out of our respiration. If you're doing breathing exercises, if you're really trying to stretch things out, you can increase the elasticity of your lung capacity. You can't really alter your total like vital capacity, and that's like the potential of the amount of air that you could possibly have if you're in like really good shape and you do a lot of breathing all the time. Right? And that's sort of dictated by how tall you are or like how big your rib cage is. So here we're going to do a couple of exercises. First thing we're going to do, we're going to take a really good breath, try to fill up like 99% of the way. You're just going to take a couple sips on top. Now, importantly, don't bottle up that air. You don't want to pressurize it. Keep an open system at the top. So we're going to take a nice deep breath, couple sips, and then in out on top like this. Let's do it one more time. Nice deep breath. Now, the important part about not pressurizing that air, number one, if you bottle up that air and you're at 100% capacity and you hold that in for a long time, that air is going to expand as it warms up and you could possibly damage your lungs. So you don't want to do that. Now, the other thing, which is a little more practical, is that if you pressurize that air, you have to exert effort to release that pressure, and you're going to get this pop of wind, and that's probably going to make you frack a note. Where you're going to get a little more wind and energy than you actually want, and the note won't be as steady. You'll have less control. So I'm going to try to demonstrate that here. So I'm going to fill up all the way. We're going to hold it. I got a really loud note, but it wasn't under control at all. Why don't you try that at home? If you've got your instruments with you, right? Take that really deep breath, bottle it up, and then release it, and see how well you can control that note. Give it a shot. Now, of course, you're all muted, and if you weren't muted, it'd be a great cacophony. So maybe by reaction or in the chat, how did it go for you? Did you get a controlled note or an out of control note? Bad.
About 10 seconds held.
You held the note for 10 seconds. Yeah, you used your full capacity.
I am a senior, though, and started in 5th grade with a baritone.
Well, that's fantastic. 10 seconds is pretty good. Now, for how long you're going to hold a note out for, that's sort of dictated by if you're playing a low note or a high note, if you're playing loud or soft. All these different factors are happening here. So now what I want you to do, you're going to fill up your lungs maybe about 50% of the way, and I want you to go for like a mezzo piano, mezzo forte kind of note. Let's go for, say, a B flat. Nice, like in the staff B flat. Nice easy breath, about 50%. How'd it go? A little easier? So? Well, we're going to come back to the instruments in a little bit. Let's do a different breathing exercise here. So we've been talking about the full capacity and keeping it an open system. So if you want to be able to fill up all the way, we have to sort of do so with efficiency. We have to do so with weakness. We need that wind to come in nice and easily. You're making that deep, dark O sound. If you ever watch one of the Botsvik videos, he recommends having your tongue sort of in like a spoon position, just lightly touching the back of your bottom teeth. Now that works pretty well. Now, keep in mind that different people have different sizes and shapes of tongues. So what may work for one person could get in the way of another person. So listen to your body, do something that feels easy, do something that feels natural. When you're inhaling, you want to make the letter O as opposed to some other letter. And let's test that out actually. So just to prove a point, try to take an inhale through the letter E. Not so great, right? Now we're going to breathe through Ah. That's actually going to dry out your throat. Hang on. Now we're going to breathe through O. And that should feel more natural. Now, if you're breathing too big, that's also not very efficient. And if you breathe too small, like we practiced earlier, not very efficient either. Okay, what we're going to do now is break up our inhalation and exhalation into 3 segments. So we don't have any nerve endings in our lungs to tell us how full of air we are. We can only sort of guess based on like how stretched out we feel with the rib cage and intercostal muscles and all that. But you don't really need to know anything about anatomy in order to inhale and exhale efficiently. That being said, your body can also lie to you. You can expand your torso without taking in any air. Right? So what you want to do is breathe to expand. Just draw in air and allow your torso to move as air enters your lungs. Leave everything neutral. So we're going to test this a little bit. So if you take your thumb and find a space in between a couple of ribs, just hold it there and just inhale. And just notice how your rib cage moves as you inhale. Let's do that again. Now, put your fingers on your sternum. Let's inhale again. There's a little bit movement, but not as drastic as the ribs. Now, something that you may see very young players, maybe beginners, do is raising their shoulders to breathe. Now, when you fill up all the way, your shoulders would go up a little bit, but not dramatically, right? So maybe if you hold an arm right here, you can feel your clavicle, that's this bone right here. You can feel that move a little bit. But you're definitely not doing any of this. So, in order to measure or sort of gauge how much wind we have, we're going to use our arm, right? So this is empty and this is full. So let's begin with exhale empty, and then inhale, try to go all the way full. Now what we're going to do is 3 equal parts. In, out, out, out. And as we're doing this, try to divide it up into equal parts. You may find that the first 2 are really big and the third one you get barely anything. So we'll do it a few times, sort of pace it out. 3 in, 3 out. Here we go. Exhale, 1, ready, go. Now breathe in 2/3. Breathe in the remainder. Out 2. Out 1. In 1. In 2. Out 2. In 1. All the way out. All the way in. So this 1/3 of your air capacity is sort of represented by a quick breath. When you're playing something, say you're coming off a rest and you got to enter with a nice forte whole note, you've got basically all the time in the world to breathe. So take that time. Usually I like to take about 2 counts to breathe. If you have a nice, big, slow, relaxed inhalation, your body will be neutral and you'll exhale nicely. So pick up your horns. And So I'm going to count 1, 2, breathe, breathe, play, right? And I want you to inhale for both counts. Here we go. 1, 2. Two, three, 4. 1, 2, breathe. So if you're doing this with the 2 counts, it should feel pretty relaxed. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2. Now for a contrast, we're now going to take 1/8 note to breathe. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and see if you can hold that note out for the same length of time with the same level of quality. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you think? Did you do as well, or was it more difficult? Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, point being, if you've got time to breathe, take that time to breathe. Now, of course, there are scenarios where we have to breathe quickly. Say you're doing a scale and you're going to take some sips of breath in between. Let me turn this down so I don't overload your ears. If you know your scales well, try a B flat major. Just breathe at that middle octave. Give it a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Too fast? You want to go slower? Let's try a little slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So for quick breathing, I've actually devised a pretty cool breathing exercise that I came up with while playing Sousaphone in the pet band. So if you've ever played in a pet band, you might be familiar with Mortal Kombat. So I'm going to buzz Mortal Kombat and breathe a bunch of times. I don't know how many times I'll breathe, but try to count and we'll see, okay? Here we go. Anybody got a number? A lot, yes. At least 10. Right? So if you've got your mouthpieces, let's try to buzz Mortal Kombat together. And the technique is try not to hyperventilate. If you feel like you're going to fall out of your chair, take a breath or take a breather. Take a rest. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Anybody feeling lightheaded yet? So that lightheadedness that comes from the excess of oxygen in your blood and not enough carbon dioxide. So just breathe a few times, the gas will sort of go away and you'll come back to equilibrium. Anybody want to try that again, or should we move on? Hi,
Hey, Max.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a few questions in the chat.
Sure. What do we got?
Let's see here. from, well, there's a few questions.
Okay. Let's see here. My band teacher always taught me to try to play without having my cheeks puffed out, and I'm not sure if that was his preference or if it is supposed to be like that. That's a good question. So, on the tuba, some cheek puff is fine. I find myself puffing my cheeks, especially when I'm playing lower notes, because I need my face to be relaxed enough for, that vibration. Now, puffing your cheeks, especially going up for higher notes, that's sort of going to rob you of a little bit of efficiency, because the energy of the air is going into your cheeks instead of down the lead pipe. So we can sort of experiment with that a little bit. If you've got a pedal B flat, that's an excellent scenario where you can have a nice puff of your cheeks, like this. Right, real relax, just to get that low note. Now, if we do that same thing up one octave, and you'll notice there I'm puffing my cheeks a little bit. I'll play the same note and I won't puff my cheeks, and maybe the sound will change a little bit. If your ears are really attuned to tuba sound, you might notice that maybe it sounds a little more constrained or a little more forced that way. Now,
Something
yeah,
something that I find useful for having your cheeks puffed out is marching band, because you need as much sound as possible, and having your cheeks puffed actually gives you more sound. Between this, I find that it helps with that.
Yeah, thanks for that. The audio sort of cut out on your tuba playing, but yeah, I think I get what you mean, right? You're trying to put all that air out, and you're trying not to be tense, and tension is the absence of movement. So I'm going to do the same B flat up in the staff, and here, just naturally, I won't have as much cheek puff because the embouchure has to direct the air a little more focused to get a higher pitch. Now you can still puff your cheeks and get that note. At least for me, it's a little harder to control. Now, if I go up another octave and try to puff my cheeks, I might have a pretty hard time. Do you hear how the sound and the intonation is changing based on whether or not I have my cheeks puffed? Right, it's a pretty big change. So cheek puff is okay. Use less in the higher range, more in the lower range. As long as you're getting a nice sound and a consistent response from your instrument, then I don't see a problem with it. Were there any other questions that I missed or anything that you've come up with so far? Did you see anything, Heidi?
I think that's it for now, actually.
Okay, fantastic. So let's do another breathing exercise. This is breathe and blow, after all. So for this one, we're going to breathe in for 1, out for 4. In for 1, out for 3. In 1, out 2. In 1, out 1. We're going to do each of these 3 times. So 1 4 1 4 1 4, 1 3 1 3 1 3, 1 2 1 2 1 2, 1 1 1 1 1 1. That was 4. But anyway, once we get to the ones, you might feel a little lightheaded, right? Don't fall out of your chair. Let's try this out. So we'll start at this tempo. 1, 2, ready, go. And relax. If you weren't lightheaded before, you probably are now. If you got water, now's the time. So, how'd you do? Did you get all the way full and all the way empty? Do you want to try again? Let's do it again with the objective of getting all the way full and all the way empty. Now, the important part here, when you inhale quickly and try to get all the way, for that last little bit to get like the last 5% maybe of wind into your lungs, sometimes we end up engaging the muscles down here, which are sort of like stress muscles. You know, it's like fight or flight kind of thing. We want to avoid that. So the inhalation, right? Try to stay as neutral as possible. Move that air all the way in, all the way out. Let's give it a try. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And relax. Anybody falling over yet? Okay. Someone says, do the muscles at the back of the neck act similarly? I feel tension there usually. So if you're feeling tension in the back of the neck, so are you feeling that when you're inhaling or exhaling or both? If you can put in the chat. In any case, we want to try to avoid inhale mostly. Okay, but both, sure. We want to try to avoid any tension, right? Tension is the absence of movement. It's worth repeating that kind of thing. So if you're feeling a little tension there, we can do just like a little like simple yoga kind of stretch. So if you just let your head just gently, you know, rest down here. Then we're just gently lean to the left, gentle inhale, exhale. Go back neutral. Inhale, exhale. There we go. We're just letting gravity do the work as it tips to the side. Back neutral. And as you bring it back up, think like one vertebrae at a time. You've got like a little string balancing you here. So if you think you're balanced on your spine with that nice posture, try breathing through your nose. Note that you don't need your neck muscles engaged to keep your head up. Your head will stay up no matter what, right? Just the, you know, loosey-goosey. Let's try a really just small inhalation to try and see if we can do it without tensing up at all. Just, if you can even hear that. Take like a tablespoon of wind. And you can feel. Everything should be nice and soft. So hopefully that helps with the tension idea. If you're experiencing, say, like a stressful inhale, you feel like you got to work really hard to get that air in. Perhaps there's some other part of your respiratory system that may be getting in the way, right? So think of being like kind of open-throated. Like, oh, if you just say, oh, like you're using your stage voice, you know, imagine an actor, oh, and then just blow air through that, oh. You're just allowing wind to pass, allowing your torso to come down on the wind that's inside of your lungs. And instead of blowing through from the neck, you're blowing from the lips, and allowing your torso to act sort of like a bellows. If you don't know what a bellows is, it's a contraption that has like two boards and a sack in between. It's got a little needle here. When you pull them apart, they right, they're used to sort of stoke fires and all that. You'll see them in maybe an old-timey blacksmith shop. They've got giant ones like. Okay. Let's do a little bit more with the instruments now. Let's put this into practice. So to practice that sort of nice, easy, no drama air movement, we're going to do a two-part thing. You're going to take a nice breath and blow air through the horn. Take the same breath and play a note. Let's just call it a B flat to keep it nice and simple. So it'll go like this. First air, then breathe, then note. So like. Now we want to start these notes with no tongue at all. We're just starting it with wind. If you blow the second time and no note happens, just try it again with your lips slightly closer together. Let's do that again. Let's do one more. Now, if you're watching, I'm breathing with my mouth still touching the mouthpiece. I'm not inhaling through the tuba. I'm breathing next to the tuba. I can show you here, I've got a visualizer, my nice circle on a stick, right? So I'm relaxing the embouchure. I'm breathing through the corners. With a mouthpiece. I can even cover this up. If you want to try that with your mouthpiece, you can pull it out, put your pinky over the end, put your mouth next to the mouthpiece, touching, and breathe through the corners. You got to relax your face, breathe through the corners. Just to make sure you're not inhaling through the mouthpiece. Now, this kind of inhalation with your face touching the mouthpiece is actually really convenient, especially if you have to breathe quickly. If you're pulling away from the horn to take your breath, that's time that could be spent playing a note or inhaling, right? So we can practice that. We're going to do 4 quarter notes, 1 quarter note of inhalation. And I want you to practice that breath that we just tried. You got to relax your face, inhale through the corners, and play. So it'll go just like this. So if you're working well, if you're taking a nice breath, you should be replenishing everything that you expel during those 3 quarter notes. Now, if you're playing on a trumpet, you're probably not expelling quite as much air as you are on a euphonium or a tuba. And mentioning the other instruments, the vibration rate and the quantity of air and the pressure of air that's needed to play, say, a C above the staff, C above the bass clef staff, is the same on the tuba as it is on the euphonium as it is on the trumpet. So what we may think is a high note on the tuba is actually a low note on the trumpet and a medium range on the euphonium. So as we do this, as we go up in the higher range, we want to try to stay physically relaxed. Of course, you have to focus that air. You have to get the faster air going. You have to get the faster vibration, slightly firmer lips. If you're doing too much, you sort of get in your own way. So an exercise I like to do to get players to go higher in range is essentially just accelerate your air. So I want you to blow against your hand so you can feel it. And you're going to make this sound with your wind. And if you watch what my face is doing, as I accelerate that wind, in order to get that acceleration, I naturally have to create a smaller aperture. So I do that with the rim. And then on the mouthpiece. Try it out. So hopefully you're getting something that's rather smooth. Another thing I like to do, which is very similar to this, is buzzing a glissando that's ascending. So if you go like this, right? You can get a nice, really thick glissando, really thick brush stroke getting up there. You can sort of smooth out the change that you have to make to go from larger to smaller, changing your embouchure to go from a low range, which is big, to a higher range, which is smaller. And if you do it with velocity, if you do it quicker, then you don't have time to do any tension. Just try that out. Just sort of throw it away. Try to go higher and higher, just accelerating upwards. Now, if you're going for lower notes, you're going to spend your air pretty quickly, especially if you're just buzzing on the mouthpiece. And I can do that against a piece of paper to sort of demonstrate the quantity of wind that I'm moving. Watch this. As I'm going higher, the page is coming in. I'm using less wind to produce the same volume. Higher notes double the rate of vibration if you go up an octave, and it takes 1/2 the amount of wind to play at the same volume. That's why if we're going for a high range, if you're like blowing really hard, you're going to get a very high, loud high note, or it's going to be very difficult to control that note and just sort of going to blow off and you won't get something steady. So we got some questions in the chat again. How do you balance out air support when playing piano? Yeah, soft playing is just as important as loud playing. Anybody can play loud, but you got to practice to be able to play soft. So if you're going to play a soft note on your instrument, it's probably best not to take that 100% air capacity, because then it's going to be hard to release that very slowly without the pressure of the wind in your lungs sort of overloading. Think of, for the soft playing, have you ever blown up a balloon and then play with releasing the air out of it? You know, you blow up that balloon, and then if you do nothing, it's just going to go. Or if you gently put your fingers on either side of that opening, they'll just go. Or nice and easy. But if you stretch it a little bit, you get that kind of sound. Now, that's not the best analogy for playing a high note on a brass instrument, because we don't want to be stretching. There we go, Cassie's got a balloon. You don't want to stretch your embouchure out, because then it gets less easy to control. It's harder to play quietly. So anyway, it's just releasing that air at a nice steady rate. So before you play a note on your instrument, we're going to take just a nice calm breath and say count to 10. We're going to take 10 full counts to empty that breath. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Let's try that again. Try to take all 10 counts to go from full to empty. 2, 3. Good. Now let's choose a nice mid-range note. Choose B flat F, whatever's comfortable for you. And you're going to blow that exact air. We're going to start it with just wind. Now, if a note doesn't start right away, all I want you to do is to increase your airspeed just very slightly until that note comes out. Here we go. Now try the same thing. Let's go for a lower note. Same thing for a lower note and see how the air behaves there. Just allow your body to remain calm and just at a steady rate. It's almost like a Tai Chi move kind of thing, right? You're just moving that energy at a steady pace. There's nothing in the way. Like that. Do you have any tricks to play louder notes without accidentally going up a note? Yeah. So if you're going for a loud note and you end up getting a higher note, you may be jamming the mouthpiece into your face. Increased mouthpiece pressure will get you a higher note. So I'm going to buzz, and all I'm going to do is increase pressure and let it go, and listen to what happens to the pitch here. So when I apply more pressure, I get a higher note. Now, some people use mouthpiece pressure as a strategy to go way up in the high range, which, yes, that can help, but only to a point. You can only apply so much pressure until you're going to put a dent in your lip, you know? So if you want to play a really loud note, just move a great quantity of air without strength. So if I'm blowing against this paper, that, or I even have a super fun pinwheel right here. Check this out. I'm moving a large quantity of air without a lot of pressure. Now I'm going to blow that same thing into the tuba, and I'm going to blow the same wind for a low note, a medium note, and a high note, and you'll see how that reacts. So here's that wind for a low note. So I got louder simply by playing higher. I blew the same way for all of those notes, and I got louder just because I was playing higher notes. And all I did was blow like this. Try it out at home. See what you get. So the primary idea is that the wind is the energy of the sound. We've got a question here. What do you recommend for large changes in range without resetting? So there it's that glissando with the buzzing. Say you want to practice it on the instrument, you can practice your scales. Go 2 octaves and try to do it in one breath. Go 3 octaves in one breath and see what happens. Now for extremely low notes, say like pedal range, some tuba players use a shifted embouchure, and that's a sort of like exaggerated sound. All right, it's kind of hard to do with free buzzing or even with a ring. That's the shifted embouchure right there. Right. So to go between ranges, right, it's that acceleration of wind that we talked about. That kind of thing. And buzzing that glissando. Do you know of any good ways to reduce a loud attack such as a sforzando on tuba? So instead of a da sound, it just goes straight to ah. So with the wind as the primary energy source of the sound, say you have a sforzando or like a forte piano or something, you've got this big bold entrance like da kind of thing. Yes, you do need to articulate slightly more firmly, right? Allow the tongue to match the energy of the sound that you're going to create. But the primary thing that's going to make that accent, make that note really big, is your wind, right? So if you've got a piece of paper, you hear this sort of crackling sound. Try to make your paper crackle using just wind. Do it in short bursts. You can try the same thing at a piano, at a soft dynamic. In order to do this with just wind, you sort of have to use your abdominal muscles a little bit with the kind of like that. So I'll play a forte piano that, and it's going to be all wind. I'm going to do no tongue at all. Same thing, I'm going to add articulation. I'm going to add tongue here. And with the tongue movement here, it's less of an attack and more of a release. For the lower notes, we want T-O-H, toe. Try positioning your tongue up on the roof of your mouth, sort of behind the hard palate, and just let it drop. And see how that works. Now try it on the instrument. Yeah, and with it's helpful to understand that any accent, like a sforzano, is produced by the air and not with the tongue. Absolutely. Now you can do it with just air. You can do it with a combination of air and tongue. Now you always need the air to produce a sound. You can't buzz without air, and you can tongue without sound. So that air is always the primary energy source there. So before we run out of time, there is a little graph that I want to show you, which has to do with the air in your lungs and how much effort it takes to maintain the same dynamics. So I'm gonna share this. Oh, there we go. Can you see that okay? See that graph? There. There's my mouse moving. You see my mouse moving around? Yeah? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so here we divide our air capacity into 3/3. First third, second third, third third. And this is the amount of effort it takes to maintain the same level of volume, same decibel, maintaining your same timbre, tone quality, all that. So in the top third of your air capacity, it's real easy to maintain that sound. Right? It's like that sigh. That air just easily comes out. The pressure of the air in your lungs actually exceeds the pressure of the air in the instrument. So that air wants to enter the instrument. You can get it in there without very much effort at all. In the second third of your air capacity, you spent 1/3 already. We're starting to have to sort of work a little harder to get that air to come out and to maintain our same volume. In that third third, it gets way harder, and you're going to have a very hard time. You're going to spend that air very quickly to maintain that same level of volume. Now here I've marked 0 pressure. That's the, if you just sigh and allow your body to do its thing, it's going to go to that level, right? That's where the pressure of outside and the pressure inside of your lungs is the same. So let's try that out. Play whatever note, and you're going to try to maintain the same volume for your entire air capacity. And what you're going to have to kind of do is imagine a crescendo in order to maintain your sound without diminuendo. So here, let's try that out. And we're out of air. Try it one more time. See if you can pace it out a little better. There we go. Back to it. All right. Let's see here. Any other questions? Any suggestions for how to use your air more efficiently when playing with a good full tone? Well, yeah, that's sort of what we've been talking about the whole time, right? So if you have plenty of fuel wind at your disposal, you can just allow that air to do the work, right? And we'll do just a quick little demonstration here. So if you go, that's full empty, very little effort. Then just blow it into your horn. It's going to last a little longer. The reason is that lead pipe has a speed limit. This only wants to accept so much wind at one time. So if you blow air like you're going to empty your lungs in about 2 seconds, the horn will make that last like 4 seconds. So you've got something to sort of loaf against, something to blow against, and it's really easy to pace your wind as it's going out. And this works for whether you're playing forte or piano, right? Just have something to blow against. So let's do this if you're playing at home, right? Do the all the way in, all the way out. And then blow the same way into the instrument and see how long your wind lasts. And so there, I was using exactly the same amount of effort. I was blowing exactly the same way. You got just a nice tone that lasted a long time. If you want to play a little louder, you have to add a little extra effort, but don't add so much that you're sort of forcing it and getting an edgy sound. We always want to maintain the beauty of our sound, unless it's some special event. Maybe you're playing like a Halloween show and you want to make something that sounds scary, right? Always do something beautiful. Let's see here. Balance air support and playing piano. Can you slur up a partial, say from B flat to F or E flat to A flat smoothly? Every time I try to slur up a partial, it fracks the note, but slurring down is fine. Yes, this is a good observation. So the reason why it's difficult to go up slurring is because there are partial breaks, right? There's a spot on your instrument where it doesn't want to play a note. And this is because of the harmonic series. If you say on open, on your B flat instrument, you're going to be on B flats. If you just play an open note and slur upwards as far as you can go, it's going to slot you into all the notes that are possible on that harmonic series. The lowest note that you can play is the fundamental with open, so that'll be a pedal B flat, that real low one. And then it goes an octave and then a fifth, like so you get F and then B flat and then D and then F and then A flat, you get that flat seventh happening, and then B flat and C and a bunch of notes above that. So the harmonic series is the same pattern of notes no matter what fingering combination you have down. When you press down a valve, you're making your instrument a little longer, so then you'd get access to more notes. So let's test that out. Let's go just use open on your B flat instruments. Let's slur upwards and see which notes come out. And that's your harmonic series. Now, if you buzz that like a glissando, I'm going to buzz exactly that into the instrument, and you're going to hear the resistance. And as the notes get closer together in the upper register, it's a little smoother. So try that. Buzz a glissando into your horn and feel that resistance. That's sort of the glissando slur. Give that a shot. Now the other kind of slur, I call it a more direct slur, where you just skip all that stuff in the middle and just... There is a little tiny bit of glissando in there to sort of smoothly land on each of these notes. And if you've ever seen a Remington exercise or a lot of like band warm-up packets have like these lip slur things, that's practicing exactly the technique of going between partials without the bump. You're just smoothing out that bump. You want to skip that bumpy part. It's like stepping over a crack in the sidewalk. Just skip that part. Looks like How do you balance air support when playing piano? It's that same thing, just, or I'll turn this up a little bit. Blow a consistent stream of air. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. I've talked about a lot of things already. I've left some stuff out too. Are there any final questions before we wrap this up? What horn do I play? Yeah. So I am playing on a Meinl Weston 5450 Thor. It's a 5/4 size C tuba. I've got 5 valves, 4 pistons, and 1 rotary. Also, I care to mention that I am a Meinl Weston performing artist, so that's pretty cool. Back there, you see my F tuba, which is my B&S JBL Classic. There's that. Oh, cat's name. I have 2 cats. They are named Lincoln and Jackson. I'm not sure which one was walking around in the background earlier. Thanks for this. You are welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Were you in marching band? And if so, do you have any tips? Yes, I was in marching band. And my tip is to have fun and use good posture. Let's see here. Do you come up with the names for them? No, actually, for the cats, they were named that when we got them. Thank you for your time. I have been playing tuba since the 6th grade, and actually, there's Keith, my very first teacher. I started on euphonium in the 3rd grade, and then when I was finally tall enough, they gave me a 3/4 size tuba halfway through 6th grade, and that was a lot of fun. But before I got that, I remember being in a lesson with Keith, and he had his full-size tuba, and I literally had to sit on a phone book and rest the tuba on the chair in order to play the thing. It was like so enormous in my hands, but I'm so glad that I play the tuba. It's a lot of fun. I've done a lot of cool stuff, like played with bands and orchestras, brass quintets, tuba euphonium quartet. I've done solo competitions like the Falcone competition. There's a lot of stuff you can do with tuba. It's a wonderful instrument. It's so much more than oompa. You should all know that. Yeah, and feel free to stick around if you want to. If you've got any questions for me about tuba or life or the career paths of musicians, so I'm happy to stick around and chat. Oh yeah, and also plug in for Vandercook College of Music. If you're looking for a place to study music education, we also have a performance and pedagogy degree at Vandercook. Come on down. I'd love to have a consultation lesson with you. It's a fantastic program. Everybody gets a job, literally. Like there are so many music ed jobs, and we place everybody. It's I can't say enough good things about it. What else do we have? What could I do to prepare for trying out for drum corps? Well, I never did drum corps, but I assume it's very similar to marching band. Make sure that you know your scales. I think drum corps is very much about fortissimo and marcato, so practice those. And again, make sure you're in good shape because there's a lot of running around and they make you do crazy things with those tubas that you hold on your shoulder that look like bazookas. It's a whole thing. How big is my tuba studio? So overall, I have 36 students, but that's spread out across a lot of places. I've got 4 at Vandercook. I've got 2 at North Central College. I've got 5 at Lake Forest College, and then a bunch around high schools and a couple of middle school students and all that. Oh yeah, 8 to 5. Yeah, I sometimes test myself, see if I still got it. For the contra, I never played contra, but I kind of like Sousaphone better, honestly. What is the recommended standard mouthpiece placement for tuba? For instance, trumpet is 50-50 and trombone is 2/3 above, 1/3 below. Sure, if you're talking vertically, I actually sort of shift around depending on what range I'm in. And if you can see like the red mark on my face, I'm even offset a little bit. I don't think I did that on purpose, it just sort of happened that way. And that actually is true of a lot of people that have the little divot here, the sort of M shape. I find that it sort of gets in the way, especially when I'm trying to play higher notes. But so when I'm playing high notes, sometimes my face shifts lower down. And when I was younger, I actually still do this sometimes, using the bottom lip of the mouthpiece to sort of help support my bottom lip. So I got something more firm to vibrate against without having to work quite so hard. And then for lower notes, right, I'm filling up this whole thing. Because if you come off like a trumpet or something, this will feel like a bucket on your face. It's so big. How long have I been playing? How old are people when they're in 3rd grade or 6th grade? I don't know. Since elementary school. And I am now 33 years old. Yeah. Keith says, wow, I know. I can't believe it either. Do you know about show style bands? I do not know about show style bands. Is a tuba stand worth getting? Yes, it is if you're having trouble holding your instrument. If you find that you can't put it on the chair, or if you put it on your legs and it's too high, using that tuba stand will help you just have the horn exactly where you need it, and then you don't have to exert any effort wrestling with that horn to try and keep it in place. What tuba do you recommend for tuba majors? Well, if you're going, say, performance major, I would go for a C tuba. Like a 4-quarter C tuba is pretty much the way to go. That'll let you do everything. You can play in your orchestra, your band. You can do in your chamber ensembles. I wouldn't recommend getting a really big tuba until you're really certain that you're going to play in those big groups. I got my 5-quarter size tuba partway through my undergraduate degree. I was playing on a 4-quarter size Besson 995 C tuba, really nice tuba. Love that horn a lot, but I felt like I was getting overpowered in the orchestra, being the only tuba player. So I got a bigger horn, and that's easier just to make more sound. But also, the larger horns are less agile. So if you're trying to play like in brass quintet and you got to play all the soft stuff, you're going to bury your colleagues, and they're not going to like you very much. So you got to pick the right tool for the job. And if you're just going into college, 4-quarter size C tuba. Any of the brands are good. Mono Wesson's good. Miraphone's good. There are some Eastman horns that are a little cheaper. One very good tip. If you can manage to find a used tuba, that's a very good way to get a high quality instrument without paying full price. Oh, there goes a cat. This one's Jackson. Okay. Let's see here. What else am I missing? Do you think it's worth buying a brand new tuba before college, or should I wait until I know for sure I'm wanting to pursue music, which I'm already positive I'm going to do? Yeah. So if you have the resources to get a tuba, go right ahead and get a tuba. They actually hold their resale value pretty well, as long as you keep it in good condition. It's much better than a car or something. I bought my Thor 12 years ago for like $11,000, and I could probably sell it used for about 10,000. Because new, they're now 15. Inflation, but still. A lot of music programs, colleges will have instruments that you can use. Typically, they'll be B-flat tubas. They won't always be the nicest because they've been used and abused for years and years. At Vandercook, we've got some tubas. I've had a couple students come in. They're playing on the school horns, which are fine. They didn't have a horn of their own, but then I helped them. That gave us time to find a horn that would be suitable for them. What's the difference between rotary and piston valves, and which are best? Oh, yeah, so that's a good question. Rotary valves, here we go. These are rotary valves. When you press down the valve, it rotates. That's what's called rotary valve. It's somewhat down to personal preference. Some people think rotary valves are smoother. Here, I'll do it. Right. I find that, I don't know, I use rotaries on my F tuba and pistons on my C tuba. I kind of like the pistons on the bigger horn. It makes me feel like I can go faster. Some rotor valves aren't all that quick. It depends on the brand. Depends on if you've had your instrument repair tech like pull out those springs so they're really heavy and really fast. The piston valves, they go up and down. You can play all the same music no matter what. They will sometimes have a bit of a different response when you blow into them. If you just like look at your horn and see how the tubing is wrapped. For the piston tubas, it's got a little more sharp turns going through the valve section. But on the rotary tuba, it's more of a straight line as it goes through those valves. So actually, they put, at least this brand, they put the fifth valve way up here. They chop up the lead pipe a little bit and put the valve here to put a little bit of a tight turn so that the instrument has better response. It'll respond quicker when you blow into it. Oh, what else we got? What could I do to prepare for a drum corps? Covered that already. I march open class this summer baritone, but I play contra for my high school. I recommend having great attitude and no ego. Yep, that's good advice. What's your recommendation for trying to get a tuba on a $2,000 budget? Find a used one. And you can look on eBay. Some people like find an instrument they don't know what they have. They'll sell it on eBay. There are, I think, like Mac Brass or something like this. There are some like budget brands that have like very inexpensive horns. And if you don't like have the resources for a pricey tuba, then go right ahead. You've got an instrument. Overall, you will get what you pay for. You know, like it'll be a tuba, but it might have some issues. Let's see here. I'm planning on being a band teacher in the future. Where do I start? Well, start by being in band at school, and then looking into colleges that have music education degrees, like Vandercook, for instance. It's practically a conservatory for music ed. If you know music is what you want to do, go to Vandercook. Or I don't know where you're from, but maybe there's a local school. Maybe you don't want to leave town. There's loads of music programs all over the place. Let's see here. What are the differences between the regular upright valves on most school tubas and the valves on the side of the tuba? Oh, yeah. So that's another sort of instrument construction thing. We've got a euphonium back here. So some of the upright tubas, I've actually heard tell that the Besson tubas that have 3 or 4 valves up here are actually pretty good. I've seen some Yamahas and some Accents that have valves up here, and they're like okay. They're very sturdy. If you're buying horns for your middle schoolers, that may be a good bet because they will take a beating and keep on going. But it comes down to how the tubing is organized. So here, the tubing is organized on this euphonium very much how it would be on a tuba that has upright valves. And as you're playing that tuba, it's a little harder to manipulate the slides here. So I don't know if I did this while I was playing for you earlier, but with my valves in the front, with my left hand, that's free to manipulate my slides, you know. Certain notes I know have intonation tendencies. So like, for instance, like an A, I know that's going to be sharp, so I can go. Whoops. I can have a big range of movement. I normally don't do that much, but. Or if I need to do something extreme, there's like the pedal D. Here's a plug for the North Shore Concert Band. They've got an October 29th Halloween concert, and we're playing a heck of a concert, including Howl's Moving Castle and Toccata and Fugue in D. So I get to play a lot of pedal Ds, which is a lot of fun. And in order to get that in tune, I've got 2 options. On my C tuba, I can go 1, 3, 4, 5 and push everything in. Or I can go 2, 3, 4, 5 and pull out. Right? It's like choose your poison kind of thing. I was intending to go the push in route, so I can go. Like that, and just use all that wind and make a sound like an organ with the rest of the instruments in the band. Vandercook is excellent. I didn't go there, but I know it's an excellent school. Well, thank you very much, Mark Taylor. Well, it's a bit of a whirlwind. What else you got? Anything else? Yeah, so the transition from B flat to C. What tuba players do, we don't transpose, we sort of learn a new set of fingerings. So initially it can be a little weird. Like you play an open note and you play with no valves and a different note comes out. You're like, ah. But once you get used to it, like the way I did it, I just took music that I was very familiar with, like some like easier etudes and scales. Like for me, I was using the ILMEA scale sheet, which has all the notes. And I wrote in the fingerings for the C tuba just to help memorize. And then I tried to play it, and just learning by doing is the way to go. And then when I got the F tuba, that's a whole nother set of fingerings, which is a little confusing because it sometimes lines up with the C fingerings and sometimes lines up with B flat, but not all the time. But because I had done that transition before, it was a little easier to learn those fingerings. Yeah, so it just takes a bit of time. Where do you perform? Well, I perform with brass quintets, like some stuff that just gigs around Chicago. Like we've got an Oktoberfest coming up at a country club on the 30th here. I perform with the North Shore Concert Band, which performs at the Pickstager Concert Hall at Northwestern, as well as Loyola Academy up in Wilmette. I have performed with orchestras, like I played with Kenosha Symphony a few times. I'm actually going down to Florida to audition for the Sarasota Symphony. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, band, orchestra, chamber music.